So I've always wanted to hunt feral hogs, right? Pigs, specifically down in Texas, because they've got this, I don't know, this reputation as being nasty animals that hurt the landscape, that they want to eradicate, they want to get them out of there. And, you know, for me, I love meat, I love pork, I love hams, I love bacon, I love all of that stuff. So I'm like, how could pigs be a bad thing? You know, like, how could pigs on the landscape really be that bad of a deal? So I was like, well, whatever, I'll take their word for it. One way or another, I want to go hunt them because it's something that we're allowed to do. Over the last year or so, I've been doing research on what exactly it means to go and hunt pigs. And I thought this would be some big thing where I would have permits or out-of-state licenses and all these hoops to jump through. Because many of the time, if you're gonna go hunt, let's just use white-tailed deer as an example. If I wanted to go to Texas and shoot a white-tailed deer as a Minnesota resident, it's about a $350 license for an out-of-state resident to come down there and shoot a deer. And so I just assumed that shooting a pig would be something similar, and that I'd have hoops to jump through, and that even though it was a problem, I'd have my work cut out for me. So started looking into it, and as of about mid-2019, no license required as long as you have private landowner permission to come hunt. You know all that fair chase stuff we do for like whitetail, like shoot them during the day, no baiting. You can't shoot them from a vehicle. Pretty much all the things that we consider like ethical hunting in Minnesota for like a white-tailed deer or a turkey or anything for that matter. Down there, because it's such a problem and pigs are such a problem, it's fair game. So thermal scopes, night vision, hunting from a vehicle, no permit required, baiting, all of the above, because the fact is the pig is a problem. Pigs in general, the more research I did, the more I realized that pigs start breeding at 6 months old. They're 6 months old. They're little piglets popping out more babies. And, you know, that can create a major challenge. You know, much like rabbits will reproduce very quickly, pigs seem to be very similar. And the damage they do, well, you know, it's not immediately apparent, but they compete with other wildlife. So if you have a white-tailed deer farm that you're managing, the wild pigs are competing with those white-tailed deer. If you have cattle, the pigs are competing with your cattle. If you have crops, they're destroying your fields. Whatever you've got going, the pigs are actually working against you. And so started to learn that their numbers just continuously grow. They do a bunch of damage. They're delicious animals, so that was the motivation. I want to go to Texas. I want to shoot pigs. I want to provide the Christmas ham. So that's what we did. But we got down to Texas. We got to my buddy Tom's ranch, and we pull up. We're running behind, and he's like, "Get your gear, get your guns. We're going." And I'm like, "To hunt right now?" And he says, "Yeah." So I'm like, "Okay, fine." So we get our gear on. We just kind of open up our airport Pelican bags and get the guns out, load everything up, hop in the UTV, and I drop my AR in the AR case. I keep my magazine in my pocket, and what I learned shortly later was a silly mistake. In Texas, you're rocking and rolling from the moment you are there to hunt. We start driving down the trail of this big old, like 1,800 acre ranch, and I see something in the middle of the road. It's maybe 5 o'clock, 5 p.m., something like that. And out at like 200 yards, we've got this mangy looking coyote sitting in the middle of the trail, and he goes, "Shoot it." And I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Shoot it." So I'm trying to load the AR, I'm trying to get up on this coyote, because, you know, not only are the pigs a problem, but they've got coyotes. They've got skunks, and we're talking about hundreds of skunks. Skunks are everywhere down there. Armadillos, all kinds of stuff. The armadillos we left alone. There was the skunks and coyotes and pigs that we chased. But I learned right there and then that I was out of my comfort zone. I didn't really understand kind of the rules of the chase in Texas. If you're in the field, the gun should be loaded and you should be ready to shoot something, because there are critters that pop out from every which way, and you gotta be ready to go, because you get like that much of an opportunity at them. So unfortunately didn't get a swing at that first coyote, but learned a quick lesson right out of the gate. got to be ready to rock. Anytime you're in Texas, you're on the ranch, you're ready to hunt, hunt. You're hunting. Whether you think you're ready or not, you're hunting. Learned also that, you know, vehicles are fair game. You know, you can shoot right out the side of that UTV, no problem. And so, you know, again, we never really had a good conversation with Tom, the rancher, on how this hunt was gonna play out. So I'm thinking at that point, I'm like, okay, so this is hunting? We're just gonna be in the UTV and see stuff and shoot it. I'm like, okay. But that wasn't exactly the case either. So there's a lot more to it. Meaning any which way you could hunt, we did hunt. So we were hunting on the way to the blind. And we get out to this blind, a nice 20-foot box blind on the corner of the field, and the field had been decimated by the pigs. And there's a corn feeder in the back of the field that we're hunting over. And sitting in that blind for a bit, and it felt like normal hunting because there's just plain nothing moving for maybe the first hour. A couple little deer pop out, little bucks, just kind of hanging out and browsing. And there were a lot of deer down there. They do a really nice job of taking mature animals on that ranch. But even still, felt like Minnesota for the most part, you know, watching a deer or two out in the field, pretty commonplace. And then it comes, then it happens.
There's a bunch of them. Let's let them eat some food, hang out. The deer smell. I was looking over there, I'm like, what is it? We got a field full of pigs coming into the feeder, getting some corn. You got a deer in on the feeder right now, and they don't seem to know what to think of each other. A couple of big ones, tons of little baby pigs. I'm looking forward to eating one of those little baby pigs.
First 1 pig, then 10 pigs, then 20 pigs, then 30 pigs, or whatever the number, but there were pigs everywhere. And they're not all this like giant pig. There's, like I said, they breed like crazy. And so we've got 10 pounders, 15 pounders, 50 pounders, 100 pounders. There's pigs everywhere, all over. They're fighting. They're roughhousing each other for sure, just squealing away out in the field. And that was my first experience seeing pigs in real life in front of me. And it was neat. It was really cool because what I realized was wherever these pigs are, this herd of pigs, they dominate the area, right? So like as soon as they came in, the little buck was out of there. Wanted nothing to do with that trouble, right? And so truly competing for the same areas as whitetail in this farm. And so it just kind of locked in that understanding I had that these truly are competing with the wildlife. They truly are potentially taking away resources from the wildlife. And I was excited to get on one and shoot one. So lesson number 1 I learned, be ready to hunt as soon as you're on the farm. Lesson number 2 was after I shot my first pig. So I get all set up, we're in the hunting blind. I got the scope dialed in, guns all loaded up. Dial in that magnification on that scope to about, I don't know, 6, 8 power, something like that. So I can just get that perfect shot on that first pig. Shoot the pig, pig drops on the spot, no movement whatsoever, and the herd scatters. Well, I learned real quick that it's hard, and first and foremost, to shoot pigs while they're running, because I don't have any experience. Up here, if there's a deer running, I'm not taking that shot. In fact, I'm gonna give him a little grunt to try to get him to stop so I can get a good, clean, ethical shot on him. Down there, you get a herd of pigs running, and you gotta be on the trigger. I brought an AR for a reason, you know? And so I'm on 6 or 8 power, just trying to rip off rounds at these tiny little pigs that are running all over the place. Didn't hit squat. You know, I got that first pig, dropped it on the spot, and realized real quick, magnification is your enemy on follow-up shots. And I learned throughout the weekend that was even more so the case as the weekend went on. But right there and then, I'm like, okay, I can't be shooting these pigs on like max magnification on this scope. I brought a 1-to-10 scope. And those follow-up shots were garbage. It wasn't even close. Like I was watching dirt fly and there's no pigs anywhere even near it, you know? So learned a pretty big lesson on that. So once we got the first pig down and that whole shooting array was done, the missing array, after that first shot, Tom came to pick us up and we went on back to the ranch, grabbed some food, actually kind of get settled on the ranch. And I think the goal was more than anything, let that moon come up. because it was dusk when he picked us up. We got back to the ranch and it was pretty good and dark. And really the goal was get the moon up in the, straight up and down, get a lot of light on the ground, get those pigs back out and moving. And we learned real quick that the hunting's not over until you leave the ranch, because we're sitting there in the driveway, putzing around, chit-chatting, grabbing a bite to eat, and just for the hell of it, I just pick up the thermal and start kind of looking around, and there's a herd of pigs 100 yards away from the driveway on this ranch. So again, lesson number one, always be ready to hunt if you're on the ranch in Texas hunting pigs. And so I go in and grab Tom's gun, actually, because he had a thermal that would allow us to get a little video. So I wanted to make sure I got a little bit of video of this thermal hog hunting. And so we were able to capture that. This was another one of those lessons where I felt like I was grossly unprepared. So my buddy Sean and I are down there hunting, and I grab Tom's gun, Sean grabs my gun, and we go, okay, we're gonna line up, pick a couple different pigs, and on the count of 3, we're gonna go ahead and each shoot one. Makes sense, we'll shoot pigs to it, and then we'll each get a follow-up shot. Well, I don't know if you've ever tried this, but if you decide when you wanna shoot and you yank the trigger real hard, chances are good you're not gonna hit what you're aiming at. And so we both go 1, 2, 3, miss. Miss. And so I get some follow-up shots, and fortunately I was able to drop one of the pigs as it was heading out of the field. But again, 20, 30 pigs in the field, 2 guns on them, 1 pig down, another lesson learned. The depth perception looking through a thermal scope, 0, none. You have to know. And so having like a range finder or understanding your ranges or getting good information from a guide or some of that kind of stuff is a really big deal. Because there were things I thought I was shooting 200 yards away that when morning came was like 40 yards, 50 yards, 400 yards. You just lose all perception of depth when you're in there behind the thermal. And so that was another great lesson that until I really got in there, I would have never imagined that you actually have to know the dope. It's not, if I'm in a daylight scope and I'm looking across a 200-yard field, I've got a pretty darn good idea it's 200 yards. In the middle of the night with a thermal scope, when you're just looking at heat and you can't even see how much you're using on that magnification, you're just rolling it until it's comfortable, no idea. Anyway, so we got pig number 2 down, which is good news. And we go out on the trails. Well, the trails was something new. This was like playing a video game. It felt like, right? It was drive the UTV till you get to about 100 yards from the field, get out, walk out to that field, scan the field with the thermal. If there's something in it, you shoot it. Nothing in it, you come on back. And the whole time, again, I'm a Minnesota boy, so I'm going, all right, I've got a kneeling bipod on my gun after, Tom goes, well, I better get my snake boots. And so I'm all nervous that I'm walking in the dark and getting ready to kneel down for these shots when I'm scanning the fields. And I've got tennis shoes on and I've got pants on, sure, but there's rattlesnakes and scorpions and all kinds of stuff. Everything in Texas wants to kill you. And so I'm a little nervous with all of that. And but anyway, it was a rush, walking around in the dark in the middle of this giant ranch with all kinds of crazy wild critters chasing and running around. Didn't have any late night success cruising the trails like that. Again, the moon didn't come up all the way until probably like 4 a.m. And I think we'd probably given them a little bit of a reason to lay low after all those gunshots. Misses or not, we were shooting a lot. We were suppressed, but they know what's up. They've been shot at before. And so we go back and we go and get the 2 pigs that we had down, field dressed, cleaned up, and I pulled the back straps out of one of those little guys so that we could have some pig for breakfast. I'm not used to having these fancy outdoor wild critter hangers, right? So typically in the north, we just field dress the deer on the ground, pull the guts out, all that kind of stuff. But this makes it pretty darn clean. Keeps you out of the mess, allows you to clean up nice and easy, which all of those are pretty big positives, if you ask me. So I'm gonna take advantage of the tools that we've got available. Get this sucker field dressed. It's a little hard. No wonder they say pigs have no heart. Thing's about like a third of the size of what whitetail's heart would be. That was similar weight. Maybe not similar weight. Call it half size. Pretty small. I'm gonna eat that tomorrow morning though too. All right, so we got a little bit of sleep, and I mean a little bit of sleep. I am an old man, or at least I feel like an old man. So typically I need like 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Well, we got to bed at about 3 a.m. after cleaning those pigs. Up at 4:30, get a little coffee in, eat. I grilled up those back straps and the little pig heart, and had that for breakfast, which was amazing. That was really, really good. Just nice, clean, lean pork. Man, did that eat good. And then one more hunt out on the field. Tom wanted to put us on a bigger pig, and so he had a spot that he believed we'd be able to put a big pig down, and so we were pretty pumped to get out there to the other blind. So about 5:30, maybe 6 o'clock in the morning, we got in the UTV, cruise on out. Again, it was dark, didn't see any pigs on the way out. And we had maybe an hour and a half tops before we had to get out of there. Because I mean, get out of there, like out of there hot, because we had a flight we had to jump. Had to be on a flight. Flight took off at 2, had a 4-hour drive to get to the airport. And so we're just in there. I'm just praying that we get this swing at this pig with enough time to actually get the pig out of there, get out of there, and not miss our flight. So in the blind, one of those deals where you're like, come on. Come on, come on. And normally when I'm going, come on, where's the animal? It doesn't show up. You know, it doesn't show up. And with about 10 minutes to spare, out comes this big old black pig. So I'm not a giant pig expert. And these weren't giant pigs, but they were bigger than anything I'd seen all weekend. And they looked like big, aggressive animals. So this pig comes out, I'm guessing 130, 120 pounds, something like that. So just a good, mature pig. And it's in there doing its thing. And then the other pig comes. So the other pig, this thing just looks mad. It looks like somebody took its breakfast, like somebody slapped its mom. Like, I don't know, but it was mean. So it came in about 20, 30 yards from the big black pig that's in there. It's bigger than the black one. And it charges it right out of the gate. Just charges it, tries to kick it in out of there. I don't know if there was a sow in heat or what was going on, but they were angry. And so one of them was boss, and that was not the black one that came in first. The big pig continues to chase it around. Like, I'm talking about get out of here, like picking a fight. And we watched that for a couple minutes, which was really, really neat to see. Really cool to see. I mean, these things, they're feral hogs. They're aggressive, wild animals. And they lived up to that for sure. So I was pumped. I wanted to take the big mean one out, and so I lined up that shot. Again, didn't learn from my earlier lesson. I was like, one shot, one kill on that pig. I want a perfect shot. I want to drop it on the spot. I don't want to have to trail this thing, track this thing, do that. We didn't have time for it. So I maxed that zoom up to about 8 or 9. Settle in, real perfect spot. Give him the double lung right behind the shoulder, drops the pig on the spot. Well, there is another pig in there, and I do want to shoot both. And so I start following it with 8X on, didn't learn my lesson, start shooting at it, and then finally, you know, when the pig's almost gone, I'm like, what am I doing? You get this thing down to like 2. So, you know, it's a great lesson. Too much magnification on wild animals that are moving quickly is a recipe for a miss. At least for me it is. I do a lot of shooting, and it was I missed everything that was moving. Well, maybe not. I think I hit one of them that was moving. But it was not pretty. And so, you know, great lesson learned. Dial that magnification back. Got to do it. I say I learned it. I'll probably live it again because I just wanted that first shot hit. I didn't have time for a long track and did the job. So good news was got ourselves a big, mature pig, tusks on that thing, nasty pig, big old beast. Really had a good experience. So we got a great little pig that we took the back straps out of, ate that for breakfast. Talk about tender. Woof, that was some of the best pork I've ever eaten. We got maybe a 50 to 75 pound pig. Again, I don't know, I didn't weigh them, but a nice younger pig. And I brought that out to processing. That thing's gonna get turned into some hams, turned into some pork chops, pork loins, all that stuff they're gonna send on up here so I can share it with friends and family, which would be awesome. And then that big old pig, we're getting a European mount done of that thing. And I was told I don't want to eat that pig. And so I said, okay, you know, like I normally eat 100% of the things that I shoot, you know, minus coyotes and skunks and stuff that are a nuisance. And so like part of me ethically is going, I should be eating this. But then on the other side, I can kind of put it in that bucket where it's like, this is a big old nasty pig. It was the bully on the block. If it was pushing around big pigs, what's it doing to the deer? Like, okay, this is a nuisance animal. And so, you know, that'll get fed to, you know, the coyotes and the other pigs will eat it. So I felt okay about that after the fact. But it's still one of those things, it's just so foreign from the stuff we do up here. So I guess the whole weekend, I felt like I was doing something wrong because I grew up hunting with all these different rules and all these different strategies. And when it's just how things are done, you know, it's just how things are done when you have an animal that consumes the landscape, consumes the resources, tears people's property to shreds, and really needs to be managed. And even with all of these things available to you, I mean, people are doing helicopter hunts and people are doing whatever, anything to shoot pigs. And they're still overpopulated in the area. Like there's still tons of them. And so like, imagine if you didn't do that stuff and you did fair chase, you'd have no deer left, you know, you'd have no wildlife, wild game that you want to chase, but pigs. So overall, awesome experience. Got to hunt pigs, got to go through the whole thing, shoot the big ones, shoot the little ones, eat some pork, experience Texas ranch life, you know, the way they do it down there. And I am excited to have a little more time. Next time I go, I want to have 2 or 3 days. I want to have a handful of different guns. You know, I learned the lesson that big old 6.5 AR-10 was awesome for shooting from the blinds and stuff like that. But I would love to have a compact little 300 blackout or something like that that's set up with a red dot on it, maybe with a magnifier, kind of like my house gun. And that'd be my like UTV gun, or that'd be like my up close and running around the ranch gun. Because I was fried carrying that, you know, 22 pound when it's loaded with all the optics and all the stuff on it, AR-10, and that couldn't have helped, you know, with some of those shots. So learned a lot of lessons, and they're lessons I hope to use in a future hunt down in Texas.